I'm standing on land that's privately owned by a Canadian-listed gold mining company. They're proposing to dig a tunnel from here, underneath the forest behind me. The global chief executive is here to check it out. So I asked him why it's so invested in this opportunity.
To your point about whether we have conviction, absolutely. This is our number one, as a company, our number one growth project of scale for the medium to long term.
All of this is within the context of the record high gold price at the moment. When I checked this morning, it hit 3,000 USD.
So this is a fabulous time for a gold mining company, a fabulous time for investors in the gold mining industry, given that high gold price.
Does this project live or die on getting fast track approval?
It's a very attractive ore body, but in the business of extracting it becomes less attractive the longer it takes to do so.
This is Waihi's gold and silver mine, an open pit on the edge of town that's hard to miss. It's owned by a Canadian-listed company called OceanaGold. It has mining operations in the Philippines and the United States, but its biggest presence is in New Zealand, with Macraes in the South Island and Waihi in the north. The latter has the most upside potential. OceanaGold has been doing exploratory drilling beyond the existing Waihi operation, with indications there could be 1.21 million ounces of gold under the earth. This graphic shows what that ore body likely looks like. Although some environmental groups have been protesting that the area is too precious to mine, because this land is administered by the Department of Conservation and is home to an endangered native frog species. But the Waihi North project is now being considered for fast-tracked consent approval. I've taken you to the centre of the existing mine before, 200 metres underground, and into the open pit where it just completed its best quarterly production since digging underground began in 2021. But I've come back to meet the global CEO of OceanaGold, an Australian who lives in Vancouver. He's never done an interview here before, and I want to know more about what's behind its bigger investment into New Zealand's minerals and what exactly it's planning to do. He says its tunnelling will start on this private farmland that the company already owns.
Just still on where you see green grass, we're going to have what's called a portal, and that's our entry, a decline, and it goes down about 200 metres down, and then it goes across about 6.5 kilometres to the centre of the ore body as we have determined it to exist now. So due north.
OceanaGold just made record annual revenue of 1.29 billion Canadian dollars. That's about 1.6 billion New Zealand dollars, or 900 million USD. In this interview, Gerard explains why it's investing its earnings into this prospect and the payoff it expects to net. Gerard, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for doing this in New Zealand.
Wonderful to be here. Always like being in New Zealand, Madison.
I think we should start by talking about the pre-feasibility study now that those figures are official. It's clear you have pretty high conviction on this project. Can you talk me through what your latest drilling in that study shows?
Well, yeah, we put out the results of that study in December of last year, and it showed it's a really compelling project. I mean, pleasingly, we were able to, after all of the drilling work that we've done, be able to declare an initial mineral reserve of 1.2 million ounces at 9 grams a tonne. In our industry, that's a fabulous ore body, and what really excites us is that with further drilling, we know that this ore body is highly likely to grow. So much so that, just to put that into context, the drilling that we did for that release ended in May of last year, and we've done almost another 12 months more of drilling, and as we complete that drilling, we expect that we'll be able to add further, either convert the resource amount into reserve or increase the resource and the reserve. So given the capital cost to develop this project is kind of fixed because of the tunnelling involved, any additional reserve resource we can add to this project just further improves the economics.
I do want to talk about costs and the unit economics of why you're going ahead with a project like this, but just on that quality of the ore body, for somebody who may not understand the gold mining industry as well as you do, can you explain why 9 grams per tonne is considered such a high grade mineralisation?
Well, I look at down at Macraes in the South Island of New Zealand. We're processing less than 1 gram a tonne to make the gold that we do there. So that's a lower grade, much lower grade gold mine. Here at Waihi today, we're processing anywhere between 3.5 to 4 grams per tonne presently. So if you can double the grade, all of the other costs associated with the mining and processing tends to be broadly fixed. And so grade, just more gold can be produced per unit of activity from that higher grade ore. So grade is king.
All of this is within the context of the record high gold price at the moment. When I checked this morning, it hit 3,000 USD. Based on this Waihi extension project, your most bullish case is producing this gold and selling it at a price of, at the highest point, 2,400 USD. Is that a conservative bullish estimate on the net present value of this project, do you think?
Well, the reserve case was actually done on $1,750, and we showed then what would the economics be at $2,400, which was what it was about at the time when we released the pre-feasibility study last year. Now, as you say, it's gone to $3,000 now. So this is a fabulous time for a gold mining company, a fabulous time for investors in the gold mining industry, given that high gold price. And the one thing, though, we can't be certain that it's going to stay at $3,000. It could retreat, it could be lower, it could go higher. So it always is important and incumbent upon us to develop this mine in a way that can be bulletproof as to whatever the prevailing gold price is.
Does the gold price determine your conviction and desire to go ahead with this project, or are you going ahead no matter what the gold price is, even if, say, it halves from here?
Oh, that might, if it was to halve, that might make it a little more marginal, but certainly at 1,750, it's an attractive investment for us at 1,750 gold price. So could it go there? Yes, but given that we're at $3,000 an ounce presently, it's not likely in the near term. To your point about whether we have conviction, absolutely. This is our number one, as a company, our number one growth project of scale for the medium to long term in our company. It's what we get most excited about. It's what our shareholders get excited about. We are in the business of finding, developing and operating gold mines, and to have an existing operation that's been in operation for over 35 years here in Waihi, and to extend its life with a new ore source of the high grade quality that Wharekirauponga represents to us, we have strong conviction.
On your global mining operations, as you mentioned, this is one of 2 in New Zealand, but one of 4 around the world. You also have one in South Carolina in the US and also one in the Philippines. They seem to be doing relatively well. None of them are doing poorly. But as you mentioned, this is your most exciting prospect. How much does this Waihi mine extension project sort of underline or underscore and eliminate any risk associated with your other production prospects around the world? Ultimately, what I'm asking is, does this project shore up your balance sheet for years to come?
No, look, I mean, frankly, as I said, it is our number one growth project. Our balance sheet is in really good position at the moment. We ended the year last year, 31 December 2024, with $192 million in the bank and no debt. And at today's gold prices, we expect to continue to be able to add to that bank balance, pay dividends, invest in the business across all businesses, and still have the money to invest in Wharekirauponga underground mine development. So we have the balance sheet to do so. We're not asking for anyone else's money. We're generating, we either have it ourselves or we're generating it over the period of time that we're going to take to invest in this. So it is our number one growth project of the company, and in a country that we've been operating in for over 35 years. I'm actually in New Zealand for the 35th birthday of Macraes this Saturday, which is really exciting. And so it's a jurisdiction that we've operated in. It's the country in which the company was born. The whole heritage of OceanaGold is the Macraes operation in the South Island of New Zealand. That's where it started, in an office in Dunedin back in the 1990s, and so we feel very comfortable operating here.
That 192 million, is that Canadian dollars?
That's US dollars.
Wow, okay. Yeah. So how much is this Waihi extension project set to cost, do you think?
Well, the Waihi project is about $1 billion New Zealand, and so that we've probably got, 400 New Zealand dollars in the bank already.
So you don't have enough.
But we are continuing to produce, and we expect that today's gold prices to continue to generate strong free cash flow. So, we are strongly free cash flow generative at lower gold price. We're super strong free cash flow generative at this higher gold price.
So fair to say then, just to sum that up, affording the extension of the Waihi mine through to about 2042 is also dependent on producing gold out of the existing underground tunnels and continuing to sell that at a high price on the market.
Sure. I mean, we expect that Waihi operation, as it exists today, mining the Martha underground, will continue right up until the start of the new mine from Wharekirauponga, and then we have our other mining operations as well. And the development cost of $1 billion, that's spread out over about a six-year period. So we think it is, from a capital perspective, digestible by the company over that period.
And you're starting soon. I know that you've put an application through the Fast Track Approvals Bill, which we will talk about, but you plan on getting underway with some early construction works as soon as this year, and that's going to cost, what, 40 mil?
45 million US, which is about 70 million New Zealand. So you're right, this in 2025, we're expecting to spend about $70 million doing early works that basically connects the area where we're going to commence the portal to go underground towards Wharekirauponga at a place called Willows, back to our existing process plant. And that's a services trench with water and electricity and the like. So yeah, we are backing ourselves to get the fast track approval supportive of the project.
I mean, you seem very optimistic that it's going to go ahead. What about the macro environment in this country and perhaps mindset towards mining, which politically has certainly shifted, has fed your desire to go ahead with this project and also put an application into that bill?
Yeah, look, I mean, you're right. I think that the attitude towards resource development in this country has changed. I just look at some of the surveys that are done. Certainly locally around this Waihi township, we have tremendous support. 80% of the workforce of Waihi operation lives locally. 99% of the workforce, and that's 400 odd people, are New Zealanders. So we have a strong group of supporters and their families' friends who value what we do here. And then more broadly, I think, given the economic benefits that mining gives to New Zealand as they continue to be more broadly shared and known, I think that engenders some degree of support more broadly across New Zealand.
Does this project live or die on getting fast track approval?
Look, it's an attractive ore body geologically. To have this scale, this growth of potential of it and the high grade says that it's a very attractive ore body. But in the business of extracting it becomes less attractive the longer it takes to do so. So in our industry, if it takes too long to permit something, the burn rate of what it takes to continue to study, continue to explore, can overwhelm the economic attractiveness. So put another way, Fast Track has certainly given a greater degree of confidence in the time that it takes for the permitting process to be done, and gives us a greater degree of confidence and a lot of international investor support for our pursuit of it because of the greater certainty that Fast Track provides.
How much cash are you burning annually currently for this project?
Prior to this year, we'd invested over 100 million US dollars in developing this project, and that would be a combination of historical exploration and historical study costs. And this year, we're going to spend 70 million New Zealand dollars on the early works. So that's cumulatively every year growing, and it can't grow on forever. Eventually, you're investing to get that payback of gold produced, and so for the longer it takes to get that gold payback, the less attractive the economics.
You're expecting and assuming that you'll get fast track approval consent at the end of this year, end of 2025.
Yes.
What happens if you don't get it then? It's pushed out a year, or you don't get it at all. What's the cutoff for when you stop investing and pushing this ahead?
If it's a minor delay, I don't think that's going to alter things all that much. It won't be ideal. It won't be great from our shareholder perspective. It won't be great from the perspective of what it's like to operate in New Zealand from an international perspective. But if we don't get the permits, then the mine doesn't go ahead. It's that simple. So yeah, we are assuming and hoping that the fast track bill gets our project consented.
That net present value of 621 mil that you expect to get out of this new project, how much of that goes back to the New Zealand government and mining royalties?
Well, let's start at a macro level. Over the period, just Wharekirauponga's known reserve base, that's about $8 billion of...
Million or billion?
$8 billion New Zealand of export revenue over the period of Wharekirauponga's operation as we have defined it. That's at current gold price of $3,000 an ounce. As in when we increase that reserve life, that number could grow. So that's $8 billion of export revenue. About $1 billion we expect over that 8-year life as currently defined. Again, we hope to extend it. Will go to the government in the form of royalties, taxes, both corporate and PAYG taxes to the New Zealand government. So the New Zealand government directly will get that about $1 billion New Zealand. And then, of course, we're employing about 1,000 people over that project, directly and indirectly, and that generates, well-paying jobs, for 1,000 families. And then you think of the multiplier effect of that kind of money being infused into the New Zealand economy. Even now, presently, we spend about $500 million New Zealand a year on our existing operations. 80% of that is spent in New Zealand.
I think we'd be remiss not to mention, Gerard, that there are people who are very vehemently against this project. Certainly mining of all types, including your project, comes with controversy. What do you make of that? And why bother pushing ahead with this, given that you have to go up against that?
Well, look, we have 400 families that are dependent upon us here at Waihi for their livelihoods, so we'll do that. Our purpose as a company is mining gold for a better future. There are people that take a different view on mining. They probably don't understand the extent to which we put great effort and care into doing it safely and responsibly. And the amount of care that we're putting in to the environment, which is typically the lightning rod for people's concerns, if people could understand the amount of care that we are taking in respect of protecting local flora and fauna, I think they might take a different view. And particularly as it relates to Wharekirauponga underground mine development, it's an invisible mine. This thing is an underground mine. There's zero surface expression. There are about, when the mine is operating, there are 4 vent ducts. That's to allow air to get into the mine. The total area that is going to occupy is about the size of 2 tennis courts. That's 0.3 of a hectare in an area that's 77,000 hectares. And then when we remove those vent ducts at the end of the mine life, it regrows because it's bush. So I feel very proud of the fact that this is almost an invisible mine with zero surface expression and basically a strong net economic contribution that supports the livelihoods of many New Zealanders.
What makes it, I think, tricky for people to mentally get on board with your project, perhaps I could say, is that it is conservation land. It's underground, and I know it's a small portion, but it is protected land that has sentimental value to New Zealanders. I know you went in there yesterday. What did you think of it when you went in? Did you feel sentimental about it?
Oh, look, it's beautiful, right? The landscape is stunning, and it's there's a lot of foliage to walk through there. So I can appreciate why anyone that is familiar with the area would want to care for it. But what really made me proud and pleased is that the people that I walked in with, who are our employees of the Waihi gold mine, are equally passionate about its care. Our people care for it because, again, 80% of the people that work at our operation here are from the Waihi community themselves. So I walked in with one of our ecologists, and environmental managers, and an exploration geologist, and their knowledge and care for what the landscape that we're operating in would be equal to anyone's outside the gate of our operation. So we have people who care about how we're going to undertake the mining activity there. And if I think about all the work that we're doing presently on protecting local fauna, frogs in particular, I mean, you cannot step into an area that we are operating without walking over a frog-proof fence.
I was going to ask, did you see any frogs yesterday?
No, we did not see any frogs, no. But all the care, we have access arrangements that define how we operate, and the adherence to that is very strict. And again, we do it because people care and have much the same care for the environment that those who seek to criticise a company.
We've already spoken about your global mining operations around the world, the USA and the Philippines. The mindset around mining is different in each of those places. Therefore, I imagine your stakeholder management has been varying in those different countries and cultures around the world. How have your experiences in those countries shaped the stakeholder management that you've put in place in New Zealand and Waihi?
Look, I mean, in many respects, they're similar but different with a different context. I mean, Waihi and Macraes both operate in areas where the regulatory a degree of regulatory oversight is particularly strong. We have 7 regulatory authorities in New Zealand monitoring everything that we do. We have consent conditions that are very detailed and specific, and so we have teams that for 35 years have worked very hard and very well to comply with that. In other jurisdictions it may not be as complicated, but what is absolutely universal is that we have to be engaged with the people that are interested in how and we operate and what we're doing, and that's what our universal practice is to be very open. So at the Didipio mine in the Philippines, we have an office in the main street of the Didipio township where anyone and everybody who wants to know what's going on at the mine or have a concern, they walk in and they can be engaging with one of our employees. The same thing here exists here in Waihi Township.
7 regulatory authorities in New Zealand? How many does that compare to in, say, the US or the Philippines?
Well, in the US we have 2, mainly 1, but 2, and in the Philippines we have 1.
As a foreign investor, because you are a Canadian-based company that's investing into New Zealand, how does that make you think about the investment attractiveness of this country to do the work that you want to do?
Well, again, having worked in the country, having our foundation asset being a New Zealand gold mine down at Macraes and having been here at Waihi since 2015, I think we have a familiarity with what's required. And again, 99% of our workforce are New Zealanders, so we're kind of like familiar with what is required, and we've got the people and the practices and the tools necessary to operate there. But in a global context, it probably has been seen as a more challenging jurisdiction in which to invest because of that higher regulatory burden.
The gold's pretty good though, so I guess that makes it worth it, right? I wanted to ask you about the cost of production, and given the regulatory burden of a country like New Zealand versus, say, the US with only 2 authorities, what is the cost of producing and mining gold like in New Zealand versus the other countries that you operate in?
Yeah, I mean, the regulatory costs would not be a significant part of that in a direct sense. Probably it does impact how you evaluate projects, because the more regulatory hurdles you have to go through, sometimes it can take longer to get things developed. And in any business, if it takes a long time to get something approved or done, the burn rate as you're evaluating that can kind of consume both your finances and or your goodwill, right? So, or your appetite to do so. But as I said before, I think we're comfortable about operating here in New Zealand. But the cost more broadly of mining, I mean, 40 to 50% of any miner's costs are going to be labour related, and then there will be energy costs and the like. And so New Zealand, we like operating in New Zealand from an energy perspective in particular, because almost all of our energy is hydro powered, so green energy. So the gold that we produce is greener than most of the gold that's produced globally as a result of being that hydro powered electricity. And then the other costs, consumables, they're set by reference to global markets. There has been some pressure on those costs, and labour rate inflation is real throughout our industry and throughout the world. So costs have been slowly creeping up in the gold industry, which is why we're also happy that the gold price is rising.
Well, on that, I'm sure that as a business you're investing in technology to make not only gold mining more efficient and more affordable, but also for safety. Can you tell me what investments you're making there, if any?
Well, look, I mean, we're a fast follower on the whole industry's pursuit of that. We, as examples, increasingly underground, we're using remote loaders, remote operated things. So
I've seen this. It's like they're playing a PlayStation game above ground, driving a rover underneath the mine.
Exactly. And so we take people out of a risky environment and as you say, operated from surface, and that gives us the ability. And sometimes those operators, when they get very good, can run 2 machines at the same time. So you get a productivity benefit as well as keeping people safe as well.
Well, given that, you mentioned labour costs that have increased in every industry, but certainly in yours. Miners, especially underground miners, earn a premium for the risk and the danger that they're taking in their job. I went underground with some of your staff. People would have to pay me a hell of a lot to do that every single day, that's for sure, Gerard. If you are making these investments in technology to make things more efficient and also to reduce that risk on your employees, does that mean that their wages will reduce with that too?
No, we'll always need people in our industry. So the remote loader that we spoke about just now is just one part of the process. You're still going to need people to go down to inspect, to maintain. There's other capital items, equipment items, ventilation works and the like, pump stations and the like that you still need people to go down. You're right. Jobs in our industry are well paying. The well paying not only because of the risk of being underground as such, or the absence of sunlight, but also because they're technically we require skills that aren't universally available. So we've always, as an industry, had to pay good salaries and wages to attract people to work in it, and that also is one of the benefits of having a mine in a town like Waihi. Right, the jobs are on average better paid than what is available elsewhere, and it gives earnings diversity to that township.
But is there going to be incoming pressure on the wages of the employees at this project? Because I think that's important to understand, given that the economic development benefit in jobs is held up as a part of this process.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously we're going to expand our workforce to undertake the project, and we're going to have to increase the number of people working at the mine and the project in particular. And that will require us to pay a commensurate rate, and so that we already have well-paying jobs, and to attract more people to it, we're going to have to cast the net wider to get people to join our industry.
Thank you so much, Gerard. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Markets with Madison. If you enjoyed this interview, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. I do all of the research for these episodes myself, so your support means a lot. I always love to hear your feedback and ideas, so please drop any thoughts in the comments below. Now go put your money to work.